webinar will be very short. This webinar will be straight to the point, and I can assure you that at the end of today's webinar, we'll be getting quality information when, of course, it comes to what Proconnectpay does to support, individuals that would love to acquire a global education. So my name is Elder. I work as Global CEO for Proconnectpay. It's not always, of course, that people get to see me anchor or host webinars, but for today, because we have some major changes and announcement taking place, so we decided to also, I've decided to host today's webinar as a way to communicate these major changes, of course, that is taking place within the Proconnectpay ecosystem. So in the spirit of getting to know ourselves, we can introduce ourselves in the comment of this meeting. You can just tell us your first name, tell us where you're connecting from. You can tell us, of course, the city you're connecting from. You can also tell us the course you would like to study, and you can tell us the type of academic program you want to go from. Lastly, you can also tell us the country you aspire to go to. So let me say that again. You can tell us your full name, tell us where you're connecting from. So you can say, my name is Kwame Ben. I'm connecting from Accra in Ghana. I would love to go for an MSc in information technology, and I would love to go to Canada. So you can introduce yourself in the comment of today's meeting. Now, because every one of us have attended today's webinar, we automatically enjoy a limited 15% discount. A limited 15% discount that expires on January 31st, 2024. So a limited 15% discount because we've all turned up for today's webinar. So we automatically get 15% discount for turning up, of course, for today's webinar. So quickly, I will go, of course, into the major business that brought us here today. And what is that business? The business of wanting to acquire a global education. The business of wanting to acquire a global education. The major reason all of us are gathered here is simple. We heard or were told that Proconnectpay provides $100,000 in student financing. And the financing we provide, we do not just fund people, of course, in Nigeria. We fund people in Ghana. We fund people in Kenya. We fund people in Rwanda. We fund people in Zimbabwe. We fund people in any part, of course, of the world. So long as you're an African, we get to fund people to acquire a global education across the world. And of course, the major focus areas for the loan we provide is the United States and Canada as of today. And like you know, the loan we provide, we do not ask for collateral, we do not ask for a guarantor, we do not ask for your kidney, and we also do not ask for your destiny in exchange for accessing this financing. The major thing we invest in is your potential. That high potentialness of yours, that if we fund you to acquire an MBA or a STEM MSc program in the US or Canada, with that global education, can you run with that and, of course, become successful in life? Can you run with that and make an impact out there in the world? Can you run with that and make a difference, of course, in the impact and the successes that you get to record in your life personally? So that is the major thing we invest in, is what we hold on to as our collateral and guarantor. Is the major reason we wouldn't tell you to bring a collateral or bring a guarantor or bring some source that we know would be impossible for a lot of us, of course, to bring. Now, like you're aware, when it comes to studying abroad, there are various layers to studying in the US or Canada. You have the financing layer. The major thing we think about whenever we want to study abroad is finance. That's the first thing we think of. How do I fund my education? Do I take a loan? Do I go on scholarship? Do I get a grant? Do I have a family member willing to support me? Or can I save my money and, of course, acquire that global education? Once, of course, you sorted out that financing, which led you to here, to Proconnectpay, you have made up your mind that I would go with a loan. I believe that in taking this loan, I am investing in my future. So right now, you are here today to know about, of course, the loan. But remember, even if you've secured financing without an admission, you obviously would not be able to access or utilize the financing you've secured. So the major thing, of course, you think of is, okay, now that I know about my financing, what course can I study? Which school can I go to? What are the commercially viable courses that guarantees I can get good opportunities post-graduation? And how do I guarantee that I can get a good job post-graduation? So at the admission processing layer, we get to also break down what, of course, that means within the Proconnectpay ecosystem. Lastly, we talk about the visa support processes and, of course, the visa support services that Proconnectpay provides to members, of course, of its global education community. So quickly, we're going to break down each of the layer, the loan processing layer, the admission processing layer, and of course the visa support layer as it were. Now let's talk of course about the loan processing layer, which is the sonum bonum, the major reason we're all gathered here today. What is the interest rate on the loan? What are the terms and conditions around the loan? How do we disburse the loan? How do you repay the loan? How do we ensure that you get approval to qualify for financing? That, of course, I'll get to answer in the next couple of minutes. So just give me 1 minute, whilst, of course, I change my screen to a new document so that I'll just get to share quickly. Like I said, this will be a straightforward webinar, very fast, and of course, straight to the point. By max 6:30 or 6:15, of course, we should be done and dusted with the webinar. So for today, let's utilize Kwame Nkrumah as our sample candidate for today. So let's say Kwame Nkrumah wants to study an MBA in the US or Canada with a focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. So to a large extent, this is a STEM designated program. And of course, you either want to study this at the University of New Brunswick, or in the US, you might likely want to go to St. Louis University. And of course, it's a 2 years program. Now, in Proconnectpay, if you are going to the US or Canada, there are 2 ways we get to qualify if you access our full funding or not. In the US, we get to pay for your tuition, we get to pay for your cost of living, we get to pay for your health insurance, and we also get to reimburse your flight tickets to you. So you spend money buying your flight tickets, we reimburse that money to you when you've landed in the US. If you are going to Canada, we get to pay for your tuition, we get to pay for your health insurance, we get to reimburse your flight tickets. Now, not every school in Canada we support accepts our cost of living loan. So it means that in Canada, we have about 34 schools we support. Of those schools, only 2 schools, only 2 universities, that is Northeastern University in Toronto and in Vancouver. They have 2 campuses in Canada. They have a campus in Toronto, they have a campus in Vancouver, accepts our cost of living loan. Then University of New Brunswick also accepts our cost of living loan. If you are going to any other school, like University of Alberta, University of Windsor, Carleton University, Carleton might accept our cost of living loan. Now, it's simply a Canadian law and, of course, policy that makes some of them accept and some of them not to accept. So if your school accepts, very fine. If they don't accept, it simply means that you are responsible for your cost of living whilst applying for a visa, and of course, whilst you get to Canada itself. But we will pay for your tuition. We'll get to pay for your health insurance. We also get to reimburse your flight ticket up to $2,000 of the ticket you purchased, whilst, of course, you were leaving your home country, wherever that is across the African continent. And like you know, today, when you need cost of living proof of funds for Canada, you need to show at least 20,000 Canadian dollars in your bank account. So it's either you're getting it on your own, or you save the money, or you probably get the money from somewhere, but you will need to show $20,000. And some of you might say that, oh, well, Elder, I would just rather go to Northeastern University or University of New Brunswick. You can only go to the schools if your work history aligns with the courses they offer in these universities. I'll talk more on that, of course, later. So there's a significant change that has taken place within Proconnectpay when it comes to the interest rates on our loans. Initially, if you are going for an MBA, the interest rate used to be 12.99% per annum. Initially, if you are going for an undergraduate program, the interest rate used to be 15.99% per annum. So it simply means that we have 2 categories of interest rates. But right now, that policy has completely changed, and it's now totally different from what we've always communicated to the world. So it now means that the interest rate in Proconnectpay now goes between 12.74% to 15.99%. So it simply means that in Proconnectpay, we no longer have a fixed interest rate that qualifies everybody. Our interest rate falls between 12.74% to 15.99%. So some of you might ask me that, okay, Elder, can you clarify? So is it that, can I get the interest per annum at 12.74%? Or some other persons can get it at 15.99% per annum? Yes. So if you are going for a STEM program, a STEM designated program, in all those MSc, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, if you're also going for a STEM MBA program, and you have very good credit score. Remember that in Africa, we're not big on credit score. We use what we call credit history to determine who is eligible. But in our case, we're going to be using your credit score. When we get your credit history and we run it through our system, and we also add the fact that the course you are going for is a STEM designated program, and you have a very good credit history, and when we now do the calculation between your credit score and your STEM designated program, it means that the interest rate you can take from us can be as low as 12.74%. But if you are going for a non-STEM designated program and your credit history is quite poor, you probably owed money in the past, you paid it back, you probably delayed in paying back some monies, and you were probably reported to credit bureau, the interest rate will charge you will be a little higher. So in simple English, if you've had credit issues in the past, you've delayed in paying your loan in the past, the interest rate will charge you will be higher. But if you're a diligent creditor, you pay your loan as at when due. And of course, you are going for a STEM designated program, your interest rate will be lower. Now, it's possible too that you also are going for a STEM designated program, but you still have a bad credit history. Your interest rate will be in between that 12.74% to 15.99% per annum. So whatever interest rate will be given to you at the point of applying for your loan and imputing your details, before you even sign any agreement, you would have seen your actual interest rates, but it's between 12.74% to 15.99%. So if at the point of giving you your loan, we now say that, okay, we're going to give you the loan at 14.50% per annum, that will be the fixed interest rate you will get for all of the years you are paying back your loan. So the range of our interest rates right now falls between 12.74% to 15.99% per annum. But whatever we're going to charge you as the customer will be fixed. But what is going to be specifically, we cannot know until we know the course you are going for, the school you are going to, and we also run through your credit history to qualify your credit score. And this cuts across if you are going for an MBA, an MSc, or a transfer BSc program. And the best part is this: you can pay back our loan in 10 years. But now, let me give you the sweetest deal. Recently, we've also introduced a new model where you can also refinance your loan 2 years after graduating. So it means that when you graduate from school and you start earning a salary in a bank in that country, whether it's in the US or Canada, 2 years after earning your salary consistently, and of course you are paying back your loan as at when due, you can now go to your bank and tell them, see guys, I want to refinance my loan. So rather than me paying this 14.99% or 12.99% or 15.99%, can you guys buy back my loan? And when you buy it back, I'll start paying you guys between 3.5% to 5% per annum. So in Proconnectpay, we also offer that as an added value service post-graduation to our candidates. And it's a new service we're also introducing. Of course, there'll be a little service fee for that, but that's at that point when you are closing down the big interest rates you are paying. So the best part, of course, is even if we allow you pay back the loan in 10 years, you don't have to run your loan at 10 years at that high interest rates. We also help facilitate closing down the high interest rate loan so you can take a cheaper bank loan that is less than 5% per annum and still allows you to even now recalculate your 10 years again. Now, as a student, when we disburse your loan to you, when we approve your loan, so let's say hypothetically, you got $43,000 from us to go to the US. We do not disburse $43,000 at once. We divide that money into 6 equal installments. So in 2 years, we'll be disbursing $7,300 every quarter. So for every quarter that we disburse the loan, we are expected to service the interest on what we've given to you so far. Only the interest is to enable you build up your credit history and your credit score whilst in the US or Canada as a student. Because these are the elements that will also qualify you to access our refinancing 2 years after graduation. And like we tell people, you do not have to take $100,000. No, it's what your school says you need that will get to disburse. Some of you might have personal savings. Some of you might even get scholarship. Some of you might get partial funding. Some of you might get an uncle or auntie or somebody somewhere willing to support you. What your school says you need is exactly what will be given to you. Nothing more, nothing less. So if you need 15K, we'll give it to you. And look at the beauty to what we do in Proconnectpay. We do not even encourage people to go to expensive schools, specifically if you're going to the US. We have more than 400 universities in the US we support. So we are big advocates from 2024 on don't go to popular schools. Look at schools that have STEM designated programs and that their school fees is cheap, $20,000, $25,000 per annum, and where the cost of living would be cheaper. So it simply means that you also stand a greater chance of getting your visas when the loan you are taking is also lower compared to wanting to go to the big or popular schools. And you know the best part? Our data, our internal data at the back end has shown that folks that go to way cheaper schools, specifically when you're going to the US, even stand a greater and better chance of getting a visa when the loan they take is usually small and, of course, minute. We don't give the loans to you directly. The money is paid directly to your school, but the loan will only go into effect when you've gotten your visa. So any expense from now till you get your admission, till you process your visa, till you buy your flight tickets, all of those costs are on you. Our loan only comes into effect when you've resumed on campus and you validate your student status by registering yourself on campus. That's why our loan comes into effect. So whatever money you will spend till you get into US or Canada, all of those costs are on you. Our loan only comes into effect. So even if we sign your agreement here in Nigeria or Kenya or Ghana or Uganda, it does not go into effect until we've disbursed that money. And we only disburse when you've landed in the country. So your flight ticket, you will buy it. Your application fee, you will pay for it on your own. Your visa processing fee, you pay for it on your own. The money you pay to Proconnectpay, you pay it on your own. And just to wrap up this point, we do not fund people that are unemployed. So if you are unemployed, totally unemployed, we will encourage you not to come to Proconnectpay at all. You are jobless. Don't come. Oh, this is my last money I have saved to enable me to take on this process. Do not come to Proconnectpay. We wouldn't fund you. You do not have a clear-cut career path. We will not fund you. You've probably not worked for up to 2 or 3 years post-graduation. We will not fund you. You are so desperate to leave Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya because things are hard. We will not fund you. We are big on funding quality candidates. And this is the exact point we made at the US consulate some days ago when we hosted an event to officially introduce the loan to the US embassy, so that when we give you our letter of support endorsing you, we know that we're endorsing a credible, high potential individual that will take that education and make a difference, not just in their lives, but in the economy and in the world. So just to wrap up this point, what are the key elements that determines your eligibility for our loan? Number one, be a graduate, a university graduate, a polytechnic graduate. Number two, you must be willing to study commercially viable courses. I already said it, STEM courses or STEM MBA courses or Make Sense MBA courses with Make Sense specialization. Do not have a bad credit history. Anything you are going to study on our platform, it must be consistent with your work experience or your first degree. We do not fund people to switch career. Oh, Elder, I want to study cybersecurity, but I've worked as a teacher all my life. I've worked as a bank. No. Anything we fund you to study, it must be consistent with your work experience or your first degree. And of course, like I mentioned, you have to go to a Proconnectpay approved university. Going to a Proconnectpay approved university. So, away from the loan, let's now talk about our admission processing service. How do we support you in getting admission to these schools, of course, that Proconnectpay gets to fund across the US and Canada? Sorry, guys, just 1 minute. I already spoke to the courses we support: science-oriented courses, technology-oriented courses, engineering-oriented courses, mathematics-oriented courses, health-oriented courses, and business-oriented courses that is tied to tech or science or business. Commercially viable courses. And whatever you study, your work experience must align with it. I've also told you that we're big on supporting people to go to schools that are not so popular, but are affordable. Because when your loan is lower, it simply means that your liability is lower. And it's easier to convince a visa officer that, see, I'm taking a lower risk by going to a cheaper school, but yet they offer commercially viable courses that are STEM designated. This is what I've done so far. If I can take this education, it opens bigger and better doors of opportunities for me. And of course, in Proconnectpay, we have our human intelligence software. That software is called Elder. Do you know what that software does? That software is an AI tool that crafts personalized statement of purpose, refines your resume to reflect your achievements professionally, then takes information about the school in crafting a powerful statement of purpose for you in less than 30 minutes. It's an AI tool, the first of its kind across the world, dedicated to school application processes. So we utilize that tool in personalizing your success stories, your track record, in refining your career. And we submit the application on your behalf. 99% of the time, we've succeeded in earning admission for our candidates with this AI tool. So our job in Proconnectpay is to support you in getting your admission, to support you in getting approval for your loan. And lastly, we'll also support you in getting your visa. Like I mentioned some days ago, just on Thursday here, we had a major event at the US consulate. And we're hosted by the Consular General in his residence. And what were we doing at that event? We were introducing the idea and the mission and purpose behind why we fund people to study abroad. I have to use myself as a good example. In 2019, I was fortunate to go to the US undertaking an academic program, fully funded. That was where the idea for Proconnectpay came, because I saw a lot of Africans like myself that were studying in the US, but they were struggling financially. And when you struggle financially, you struggle academically because you're always hungry, thinking of money. But the good thing is that education I acquired laid the foundation for my global dominance professionally with my Edu FinTech. We started out in Nigeria. Today we operate across the African landscape. I've also been fortunate to travel the world. I will successfully funded students to the US and Canada. So what's the point I'm making? Unless your village people are on your case, there is no way you will pursue an NT. When you pursue a global education with purpose, when you pursue a global education with the mindset of global dominance, when you pursue a global education with the mindset of excellence, there is no way you wouldn't do well. At that event, we had a lot of guys, that are studied in the US that were also invited, top-ranked executives in banking, in engineering, in the diplomatic field. Proving that point, that if you acquire an American or Canadian education, it's a game changer in the opportunities you access post-graduation. See, you got no choice. You would make it. And, in sharing my testimony, I was very particular in saying that we only fund candidates that are purpose-driven, that are excellence-oriented, that are globally oriented. So even if the goal is to relocate, change environments, it's not just about relocating. I want to ensure I stand out. I want to be a game changer, a record breaker. I want to excel. I want to be at the top and at the peak. These are the kind of mindsets we expect candidates on our platform to possess. And this is exactly what we communicate globally. We communicated on Thursday. So that's why I said it before. If you are unemployed, we do not fund you. If you are desperate, we do not fund you. If you do not have the spirit of excellence, of hard work, we will not fund you on our platform. And like they say, the leader is a reflection of the culture in an organization. And of course, my mindset is a reflection of our culture, even in our global community. And like I tell people, the US Embassy or the Canadian Visa Center would not honor you or the letters we support our candidates with if they think that, these guys, they cut corner, or they are not excellence-oriented, or that we're not seeing a visible example of course, proof of concepts that a global education can be a game changer. So, ladies and gentlemen, the point I'm making is simple. When you come into our platform, and of course, you get to your visa stage, we support you with a letter of endorsement. But I can tell you for free, not everybody that comes into the platform even gets that letter. Because one thing I tell people is, if you came in with the wrong mindset and you deceive my colleagues by coming on board, over time, in our interaction with you, we would know. And when we know, we would never, ever endorse you. We would never put our name on our brand name on your profile. Never. Because whether I like it or not, you are a reflection of who we are. Go there, start doing anyhow. It's something we would have already seen, but we decided to overlook because, we want to sell. So we're very particular about quality candidates. That this is not just a platform for wanting to relocate. Your life is frustrated in Nigeria, and you assume that, if I get over there, my life might get better. No. You should have made strides, no matter how little, no matter how minute, whilst in Africa. Because when you get to that economy and climb, those are places where excellence is rewarded, where hard work is rewarded, where you will obviously see the reward and the returns on these investments you want to make and take. And the good thing is this, whatever I say publicly, and of course this is being recorded and put on YouTube, I can always come back to defend what I've said. So if you are coming with the wrong mindset, we would encourage you not to even onboard into our community, because you will not get the support you need when you get to your visa stage. Anybody coming to the Proconnectpay global community, you are coming because you know that a global education would be a game changer. It gives you credibility, it expands your worldview, and of course, it connects you to Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 opportunities. Some of you might even decide after a year, 2 or 3, post-graduation, to come back home to Africa. Because, you even make more money and you travel the world. So if I can do it, if several other friends of mine in my network can do it, it simply means that a lot of us too can do it. And I can tell you that even candidates who funded successfully that are currently in school, they will tell you the confidence level, the level of exposure, their confidence and belief in their future and potential changes. The way they act and behave changes. Nepotism, favoritism, all of those things, nothing out there. Excellence is the watchword. So if you're going to cross your visa hurdle and you do not possess this character, these traits, these values, trust me, you wouldn't scale that visa process because it's easy to spot desperados and folks with, of course, a wrong mindset or the wrong purpose or the wrong intentions. It's the major reason I decided that, okay, today I'm going to handle the webinar because these are part of the lessons and the highlights that we've gotten in the last few days, since our interaction with the US Embassy. So moving on to our concluding phase. What, of course, is the next step for everybody here today? Elder, I would love to take on my global education aspiration, but I'm not simply doing this because I want to relocate to Japan. I am doing this because I also want to stand out. We can give you names of Nigerians. I think yesterday or which day, we saw an article that said, Tokpe Awotona, the guy that is CEO and founder of Calendly, that scheduling and platform, that is the richest immigrants in the United States as of today. He's not an American citizen. He's still a Nigerian that has permanent resident status. It's like me and you. When they started his own stuff, worked, they started a startup. So today is the richest immigrant, black or white, Latino, anything in the United States. That is a Nigerian. Some days ago, another Nigerian, Ogunleshi, sold his private equity company for $12 billion to BlackRock. BlackRock is the biggest and the largest private equity firm in the world. They have assets under management of over $40 trillion. We can call Nigerians, Ghanaians. These are folks that access the same opportunity you are about to access today. That global education. So if your aspiration, if your dream is not as big and as large as what these guys have achieved, it simply means that you are not meant to be in our community. Because in Proconnectpay, our community is close-knit. And like I keep saying, I know, and I make this out everywhere, we are building a community of high flyers, record breakers, folks that will change the game, that will add value, that will go through the ranks. So we're not a platform for mediocres. You are coming in, it simply means that, man, you have those big dreams. You have those tall aspirations. Of course, not everybody must sell something or start something or get to the extreme peak. But the idea is you will rise, you will go, you will make money, you will make impact. And you also create a niche for yourself. In so doing, you also create a pathway for your fellow Africans and Nigerians or Ghanaians or Kenyans. So the first step for everybody is becoming a part of our global education community. And like I said before, if you are unemployed, we do not welcome in our community. If you've saved your last money to take on this global education process, we do not welcome you in our community. If you are desperate, we do not welcome you in our community. If you've not done something significant, see, some of you might not have a shiny career so far, but you are hungry to succeed and you are willing to learn. Those are the kind of individuals we welcome to our community because we know that with regular mentoring, with guidance, with refining of your mindsets, you can also excel globally. We welcome you into our community. So our service fee is $450. I think in Nigerian Naira, if you are going to Canada, we get to charge $300,000. If you're going to the US, we get to charge $288,000. If you're in Ghana, Grace, please, can you help me with the Ghana figures? You can probably just drop it in the comment of in the meeting, or you can probably just say it out for Ghana, how much you charge in Ghana. And like I mentioned at the very beginning, we have a promo we are running in January where we give 15% discount on our service fee. So it simply means that rather than paying 300K, you get to pay 255,000 if you're going to Canada, or you get to pay 244,800 if you are going to the US. That promo ends January 31st. By February 1st, we revert back to our original fees. if we're not even increasing it further. The service fee you pay enables Proconnectpay to mentor you, guide you through the process of getting your admission. We will help you refine your resume. We help you draft out your statement of purpose. Like I said, leveraging our human intelligence software is an AI tool called Elder. So that tool will refine your resume, right? Draft your statement of purpose. Then we then submit 2 school applications on your behalf. But we start by submitting one first before we submit the second one 1 month later if you are denied admission. But that hardly happens. Because when you apply to a school and a course that aligns and speaks to your work experience, trust me, you will get admission, unless that school has a very competitive admission process. And I already mentioned it that we tend to encourage candidates nowadays, do not go to expensive schools that are popular. Go for the cheap schools we support that are not very popular, but yet they offer commercially viable courses that are STEM designated. We want you to have a lower. See, as much as less loan risk you can take, we would love for you to have that. In the US or Canada, it does not matter whether you went to a big school or a small school. In the US, opportunities are equally spread across every part of the United States or Canada. So wherever you are, you can stay there and excel and shine. And of course, the thing is, you don't have to be stuck in one place. You can build your career and go over time. Some of you might even decide that, see, guys, I've done my 3, 4, 5 years in the US. I want to come back to Africa or go to another part of the world, because a global education from the United States or Canada will be globally rated wherever you go to outside of those places. So at this point, I'll be taking questions and answers. Questions and answers. I have just about 15 minutes for question and answers. It simply means that by 6:10 or 6:15 on the dot, we'll be ending our webinar for today. So I have questions and answers. I don't get to call anyone. You simply ask your question in the comments of the meeting. So if you have any question, please throw your questions into the comments of the meeting. We have just 10 to 15 minutes on the dots to wrap up today's webinar. So please, if you have a question, throw your questions into the comments of today's meeting. Of course, you can speak to my colleagues that invited you to the webinar. Of course, and for those of you that want to get started too, you can also ask my colleagues, oh guys, I need the account details. Please, can I get started immediately? So thank you very much. Let me look at the comments and yeah, let me just drink water quickly and I'll be back. Thank you. So that's a very good question, David Yebwa. We'll give you what we call a letter of support. That letter of support is more like what you call your proof of funds. It's free. As a student on our platform, everybody that gets approved for a loan gets what they call a letter of support. Now, if you are going to Canada and you are going to a university we do not give proof of funds to, we will give you a letter of support for the tuition and health insurance we cover and your flight tickets. But you will need to also your own proof of funds for your cost of living. If you are going to Canadian schools, we do not cover cost of living for. But in the US, our letter of support is free. Once your loan has been approved, you don't get to pay for that. It's given to everybody free of charge. And with that, if you take it to the US Embassy, it's to be honored and respected. So Fresh Fire, the service fee for Canada, sorry, for the US is $288K. Because we have an ongoing promo that ends January 31st or 15%, so you get to pay $244,800 if you're going to the US. If you're going to Canada, you get to pay $255,000. That ends January 31st of this month of January. Takegon Unis, yes, we get to fund both HND graduates and BSc graduates. If you're an HND graduate with more than 10 years work experience, you go for a BSc or MBA in the US. If you're an HND graduate with less than 10 years work experience and your HND is a 2-1 or a first class, more like upper credits and distinction, you can apply for transfer BSc to Canada. But if you have HND, lower credits, and you have less than 10 years work experience, we'll just divert you to go and apply for an MBA or an MSc in the US. But you have quality work experience. Edirin, you are responsible for your application fee. The money you pay to Proconnectpay, your application fee is not covered. When you get to that stage, you'll be told what your application fee is, dependent on the school and the course you are going for. Ecosystem, your membership fee on our platform covers you for a year. If you do not get a visa, you can defer your admission. And of course, you get to reapply for visa again towards the next academic session. Christiana is one of the benefits you get on our platform. When you've gotten your visa, when you've gotten your loan approved, you've gotten your admission, we get to guide you on how to apply for your US visa and your Canadian visa. So everybody that gets to the visa stage books what we call a one-on-one session for 30 minutes with either a visa support officer or a loan application officer. So everybody gets guided on that. So Livinus, you're not going to work as a student. You are going to study as a student. But yes, US and Canadian law allows you to work for up to 20 hours whilst, of course, studying. But Livinus, your goal is not to work. Your goal is to study. That is actively what you're supposed to be doing. If I thought you are working, you are simply going to be doing minimal jobs to enable you earn an income to service the small interest on the loan that we're giving to you. You don't guess it, Udo. I don't understand that question. If you go for a US visa interview and they don't give you, okay, no, that's even a far-fetched question. If you apply to a school and pay the application fee and the school refuses to give you admission, will the school refund you the money you paid for application fee? So if you know the answer to that question, then you already know your answer. Moses Alabi, I think I mentioned that clearly. The service fee you're paying to us is Proconnectpay service fee. You are responsible for paying your application fee. You're responsible for paying your visa support fee. And you're also responsible for paying your flight tickets out of Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya. Emmanuel, if Proconnectpay letters are not approved at all, I wouldn't even tell you yes, that they are approved. Our letters are approved. It has successfully gotten students their visas. Without that letter, I can assure you, it will be difficult for you to even get approved for a loan, for your visa, because our letter clearly endorses you and clearly states how much we're funding you with when your loan, of course, is approved. So, Eunice, if you are going to Canada for transfer BSc, yes, you will need WES valuation. If you are going to the US, some schools might require WES, some schools might not require WES. We don't determine that. It's the schools that gets to determine that. So the answer is that you have to be open-minded to the fact that you might be asked to provide a WES valuation. Oluwatosin, brilliant question. Yes, payment is the first step in starting this particular process. Wow, fresh fire. That's a very good CGPA, 3.5/4. That looks like a first class to me. The extension, and you have less than 10 years experience. So fresh fire, if you ask me, less than 10 years work experience, I would encourage you to go to Canada. Canada will admit you with speed because your CGPA makes absolute sense, but you will need WES valuation. But yes, if you probably work for like 7 years and you want to try for the US, you can also try for the US, so long as you have quality work experience. So Simon, what you're eligible for, I cannot tell you off my head. We need to talk to you. So the first things first is, are you eligible based on what you currently have? Yes, you are. What can you study specifically? When you become a part of the community, you get a one-on-one session with an academic counselor. That academic counselor can then look at everything you've done and will now advise you on what you can study. But based on the details you've given to me, Simon, are you eligible? Yes, you are eligible. Fresh fire, 4 years work experience. My advice, go to Canada. Just go and do a transfer BSc in Canada. So, Yeboah David, some schools will not tell you to pay school fees. They might tell you to pay enrollment fee or confirmation fee or acceptance fee, $200, $150, $100, $500, 1,000 Canadian dollars. It's totally dependent on the schools. Schools that usually ask for exorbitant fees that is above 1,000 Canadian. We do not recommend schools like that to our candidates. Ugono Festus, like I said, if you are applying to Northeastern University or University of New Brunswick, you wouldn't need proof of funds for yourself because our loan covers proof of funds for cost of living for those two schools. But if you are applying to any other school outside of those two universities, and how do you know the university to apply to? Is the course you are going for. You might be qualified for a program that Northeastern or New Brunswick does not offer. And you cannot go and do a course there because, they cover cost of living. I'm going to do any course. No, your work experience has to align with the course. So if you are fortunate and your work experience aligns with the courses they offer, you wouldn't need proof of funds for Canada because our letter of support will cover that for you. But if you are going to any other school that our cost of living loan is not covered, you will need proof of funds for yourself. So, Michael, when a school says you should upload proof of funds, we usually give letter of support. It's not the main letter of support for your visa, but it's a letter we give to our candidates that enables them to say that, yes, so I'm being funded by these guys, so please don't ask me for proof of funds right now because these guys are the ones funding me. So yes, we get to issue that letter to people. But we rarely get to see cases like that. But when it happens, we have a letter we give out. Faith, I've mentioned this like 1 billion times. The letter we give covers your proof of funds for the US. In the US, we fund everything. Both your tuition, your health insurance, your cost of living, your flight tickets, everything in the US is covered. And our letter of support, we clearly state that we are funding everything you've been approved for. Oluwatosin, I cannot tell you what you can study until you become a member of the network. Are you eligible based on what you've said? Yes, you are. But what can I go and study? My guy or my lady, join our community. When you join the community, you get to have a one-on-one session with an academic counselor where we now advise you on what you can study. But I can assure you, you'll be advised on studying a commercially viable course. What it is, I don't know until you become a part of the community and speak to an academic counselor. Christiana, you're an HND graduate. No Canadian university will partner with accept HND graduates. So if you have your HND, your option is either to go for a transfer BSc program or just go and do a master's in the US. But your work experience, Christiana, determines the master's or MBA or the MSc you get to do. So my advice, Christiana, are you qualified based on what you have? Yes, you are eligible. Take that first step and become a part of the community. Yeboah David, you can chat up my colleagues. Opeyemi, Grace, please, can we drop our URLs in the comment of the meeting? So chat up my colleague Yeboah David. They get to give you the account details. You make your payment, and of course, we get started on your process. So I have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. So please, if you have questions, you can drop your questions. Oluwatosin, my colleague just dropped a URL directly under your comments. So you can just chat her up, get the account details. If any one of my colleagues invited you, maybe the sales guys, you can also chat them up for the account details and of course get started immediately. Opeyemi, we can also drop the account details directly in the comment of the meeting so people can just make their payments immediately. Then they chat you up, of course, with the proof of payments. Okay, Moses. Everybody right now is applying towards September 2024. Everybody on our platform. We're all applying towards September, which is fall of 2024. What messages are disappearing? Rita, are you sure your phone is not the one that has issues? So we have 4 minutes left of regular time before we call it a beautiful day today. So thank you very much for everyone, of course, that has attended today's webinar. We look forward to welcoming you into the Proconnectpay Global Education Community. Akpo Basa. What you can do is not for me to determine because I don't determine who gets admission. Are you a graduate, HND graduate, BSc graduate? Yes. When you join the network and we look at everything you have, we can then advise you on what to apply for or what not to apply for. But can I go and do MNG with my HND? Bro, I cannot tell you yes or no. Are you eligible based on the fact that you're a graduate? Yes. What can you study? I cannot tell you until you join the network and have a one-on-one session with an academic counselor. If I tell you what you want to hear now, and you now come into the platform and you now see something different, but I said this thing, they don't like give me, they are scammers, they are this, they are that. My fellow Africans, whatever you hear today, trust me, Take that first step, become a part of the community. You will never get definite response the way you need it until you have a one-on-one session with an academic counselor. All I'm doing is giving generic information for the benefit of everybody. But I want, and see, if you're not eligible, I will tell you all that you are not eligible. So the information you're giving to me can enable me determine if you are eligible or not. And if I've told you that you are eligible, but what can you study specifically? Oh my guy, I don't know until you become a part of the community and have a one-on-one session with an academic counselor. Edirin or Mofowe. Most of the time, schools in the US and Canada would waive that IELTS requirement. You know why? You were taught in English. So long as you can show that proof that you were taught in English, you are fine. Oh God, Edirin, why are you asking me this question? I said our loan covers cost of living. What does cost of living mean? Does it not mean that accommodation also is covered? Our age limit is 45 years old. But of course, we have few candidates on our platform that are above 45 years old, but they have makes sense work experience. Like their experiences makes absolute sense. So in cases like that, we recommend people like that to go to Canada, because Canada, of course, is more more receptive to, like way older candidates that are above 45 years old. Fresh fire, you have less than 5 years work experience. I see, I'm finding it difficult to see the school that will admit you with less than 5 years work experience. So your best chance of getting admission is to go for a 2 years program in Canada, a 2 years transfer BSc program in Canada. Okay, guys, so I'm wrapping up right now. Okaridayi, if you cannot work with third class, I've seen your question before. I would have told you that we do not accept third class candidates. If you're a third class graduate, just ensure you have good work experience. That's the only advice I will give to you. If your work experience is not so make sense, you'll find it difficult getting admission. But if you have a third class and you have very good work experience, yes, we can apply for MBA, MSc to the US. We have schools in the US that consider third class graduates or very low to 2 graduates. Our age limit is 45 years old. If you are above 45 years old and you want to come to Proconnectpay, then please ensure you have make sense work experience, like 20 years plus progressive, consistent work experience. Don't be say you have not really done anything make sense and you just want to jackpot. We will not fund you and we will not even onboard you into our community. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're calling the day for today. Thank you very much to every one of us